Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I want to talk about Charles R. Saunders and the Sword and Sorcery of Charles R. Saunders. Charles R. Saunders, for many who don't know, is an African American writer who was born in Elizabeth, Pennsylvania on the 12th of July in 1975. And he died in relative obscurity in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia in May of 2020. He moved to Canada back in 1969 on the heyday of the Vietnam War, and then slowly began his literary career. He is a graduate of Lincoln University. Saunders' most famous work, as you see there, is this three-part series published by Daw Books, the Imaro series. Also in Daw Books, Saunders created the character Desoye, where she appeared in a few short stories in the pages of Marion Zimmer Bradley's Sword and Sorceress and Jessica Amanda Salmonson's Amazons. Both were editor of a series of anthology books that ran for several volumes. The Amaro books take place in Nyumbani, a fantasy alternate history version of Africa. This alternate history fantasy is common in fantasy. One finds it in the works of people like Michael Moorcock with his Dorian Hawkmoon series that you see here. This is, and if you look at the end papers, beautiful end papers, you'll see that it's basically Europe, but an alternate version of Europe. Um, in Charles R. Saunders, you won't see maps. That's not as common as you would think. Uh, in Charles R. Saunders, you're pretty much left to your imagination about that. You also find it in the works of the Canadian writer Guy Gavriel Kay, famous for his famous series of trilogy novels, The Fiona of Our Tapestry. And you see it in Tigana with an alternate version of Renaissance Italy. So the Amaro books are straight, what I would describe as straight sword and sorcery, although Saunders himself has said that he calls it sword and soul. But if you read the books, you realize, as he admits himself, his inspirations are Edgar Rice Burroughs and Robert E. Howard's Conan. So they feature the lead character Imaro, and in the first novel, Imaro Comes of Age, where we see him growing up with the Elyasai people, who were fierce warrior peoples. Imaro confronts his foes, beasts and demons, but with a deep soul-searching, psychological introspection that typifies Saunders' stories and books. You do not get bored in Imaro's adventuring because it just moves from one uh, scene to another. The second book, the one you see here, is called The Quest for Kush, and Kush being another alternate name of a region of Africa. Imaro's friends are prominent. They were introduced in the last chapters of the first book, Imaro. And Tanisha, who's his main love interest, you see there, and Pumphus, a, a pygmy warrior, is the comedic foil in the stories. The novel is a fix-up of four short stories which flow easily and chronologically as one reads the story. So as a fix-up, it's well combined. The third book is this one. It's called, just look at the spine. This one is uh, a near mint, or I should say a very fine copy. And it's dedicated to Jean Day. And the reason it's dedicated to Jean Day is the four stories that combine this fix-up novel first appeared in an anthology called Dark Fantasy that was edited by Day in Canada. And Jean Day, of course, is famous for being an artist on the Master of Kung Fu series, where he created some of the best artwork, critically acclaimed artwork that's ever been created in comics. So that's that one. And The Trail of Bohu is a novel of tragedy and vengeance. So I won't get into the details about the tragedy, but he seeks vengeance. Bohu is a faceless sorcerer and warrior, or faceless sorcerer, not warrior, but a faceless sorcerer in the story. This is the best of the books, as the confrontations described tend to captivate the reader, where Amaro finally faces up to his own identity. The Desoy series, and I'm just going to show the cover of this, another beautiful copy of the first volume of the Sword and Sorceress series of short stories edited by Marion Zimmer Bradley. And this is a first printing, 1984, and it's a second impression. So the Soy series Saunders was created mainly for this anthology and Jessica Amanda Salmonson's Amazon's anthology. In the first story, she uses her warrior bow along with her sorceress powers to defeat her foes. And the title of the first story in this anthology is Gimli's Songs. All right, so that's a very short look at one of the unheralded and one a really great writer, actually, and very engaging reader. His books have been subsequently published by Nightshade, and if you know anything about Nightshade Books is known for publishing sword and sorcery novels, particularly for republishing the works of Carl Edward Wagner and his Kane novels and the short stories. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this short foray into one of the great writers of the 1970s and 80s, and the beautiful covers. The covers were drawn by an artist named James Gurney, and what's unique about the covers, of course, is that they feature an African hero on the covers, and um, in large part, the writing and the stories that were published originally in Jean Day's Dark Fantasy fanzine, and eventually in the DAW books, it was Donald A Wollheim, where DAW, D-A-W, gets its name, who encouraged Saunders to write them as novels. And they're some of the best, regardless of their background or milieu or uh, thought, political ideation, whatever. Uh, the um, the books are just solid reads and great adventures. So I hope you enjoyed this short look at the works of Charles R Saunders, one of the great unheralded sword and sorcery novels of this last century. All right, thanks. Oh, remember to give me a thumbs up. Uh, Remember, I'll put a link for the subscription right here. And as always, please feel free to comment. And if you've read any of the Imaro books, let me know what you think and which is your favorite. The entire story reads as really one large adventure. All right, so thanks everyone for subscribing. And again, feel free to comment. Thanks. Bye.